All right, let's talk about beer. You know the feeling, right? You walk into a cool craft brewery, the vibe is great, you're ready to order, and then you see it. A giant chalkboard menu that looks more like a foreign language than a list of drinks.
West Coast IPA, Doppelbock, Schwarzbier? What even are these things? You just want to grab a beer, but all of a sudden you feel like you're about to take a test you did not study for.
Yeah, if you've ever felt like you needed a secret decoder ring just to order a drink, trust me, you are not alone. But don't you worry, we're going to break it all down right now, and by the end of this, you'll be ordering like a pro. So here's the first thing you absolutely need to know. Pretty much every single beer on that crazy menu belongs to one of two giant families. And if you can understand this one simple difference, you've basically unlocked the entire game. But before we get to those two families, just remember, all beer is made from the same four basic things. I like to think of them as tuning knobs on a stereo. You've got malt, which gives the beer its body and sweetness. You've got hops for bitterness and all those amazing aromas. Water is just the canvas. And then you've got yeast. Yeast is the magic ingredient, the personality, the thing that really brings the beer to life. And here they are, the two big families, ales and lagers. The whole difference comes down to temperature, that's it. Ales ferment warm, which lets the yeast get really expressive and create all these fruity, spicy flavors. Lagers, on the other hand, they ferment cold. This chills the yeast out, so to speak, resulting in a super clean, crisp beer where the malt and hops really get to be the star. And here's a cool little plot twist for you. For pretty much all of history, all beer was basically an ale, right? Because nobody could control the temperature. Then some clever brewers in Europe started storing or lagering their beer in icy caves. And once refrigeration was invented, boom. These clean, crisp lagers just took over the entire world. A good lager is kind of like a perfectly tailored suit. It's not flashy, but man, you can tell when it's done right.
Okay, so we've got the basics down. Now, let's dive into the one style that probably dominates that menu and causes the most confusion, the IPA.
So, IPA stands for India Pale Ale. Now, the legend is that they were brewed with a ton of hops, so they wouldn't spoil on the long sea voyage to India. That's a bit of a simplification, but the main point holds true. Modern IPAs are all about one thing, making hops the absolute rock star of the show.
You'll probably see a number on the menu next to an IPA, something like 80 IBU. That stands for International Bitterness Units. It's just a scientific measurement of how much of those bittering compounds from the hops are actually in the beer. So, higher number, more bitterness, in theory.
But, and this is the big but, that number doesn't actually tell you how bitter the beer is going to taste to you. No way. You can have two beers with the exact same IBU number that feel completely different in your mouth.
See, that's because bitterness is a perception, not a raw number. It's all about balance. A really sweet, malty flavor can act like a cushion, softening that bitter edge. And some hop aromas can actually trick your brain into thinking you're tasting something juicy instead of something sharp. It's this beautiful, delicate dance between all the ingredients. In the world of IPAs today, you're mostly going to run into two main personalities. You've got your classic West Coast IPA, which is all about that crisp, dry, snappy bitterness, with flavors like pine and grapefruit peel. And then you've got the modern hazy IPA, which smells and tastes like a glass of tropical fruit juice. This whole hazy craze is all about using new kinds of hops and special yeast to get all that delicious, juicy aroma with way less of that old-school bitter bite. So how do you taste one of these things without your face scrunching up? It's really simple. First, smell it. The aroma is like half the experience, and it preps your brain for what's coming. Then, take a small sip. Don't chug it. Let it hang out in your tongue for a second. Notice what you taste right away, and then what lingers at the end. The big question to ask yourself is that bitterness clean and pleasant, or is it just harsh? That's what separates a good IPA from a great one.
Okay, let's switch gears. We're going to move away from all that bright, hoppy stuff and head over it to the dark side. Because it's time to bust one of the biggest myths in the entire world of beer.
Seriously, how many times have you heard someone say this? Oh, I can't do dark beers. They're just too heavy. We've all heard it. And you know what? It's just not true. The dark color has almost nothing to do with how heavy or boozy a beer is. The color comes from using roasted malts. Think about it. It's exactly like coffee. A dark roast coffee gets its color and flavor from roasting the beans, right? Same idea here. In fact, some of the most famous dark beers out there, like a classic Irish dry stout, are actually known for being really light-bodied and pretty low in alcohol. Now, the two main styles you're going to see are
porters and stouts. And honestly, the line between them can get super blurry. But a pretty good rule of thumb is that porters usually lean more into chocolate, nutty, toasty flavors. Stouts, on the other hand, often have more of that intense, roasty, almost coffee-like character. And then you've got all kinds of fun variations, from sweet milk stouts to those massive, boozy imperial stouts that are just perfect for sipping.
All right, we've cracked the code on the styles, from crisp lagers to juicy IPAs to roasty stouts. Now for the fun part. Let's put all this knowledge to work so you can order your next beer and pair it with food with total confidence.
Pairing beer with food sounds complicated, but it's super easy if you just remember 3 little cheat codes. First, match intensity. You don't want a huge, rich beer to just stomp all over a delicate piece of fish. Second, contrast is your friend. That bitter IPA, it is amazing at cutting through the richness of a greasy burger. And third, echo the flavors. Got some toasty notes in your beer? It's going to taste incredible with some roasted chicken.
And look, here's a little cheat sheet to get you started. Think about how a crisp, bubbly pilsner just scrubs your palate clean after a bite of salty fried chicken. Or how a bitter West Coast IPA slices right through the fat of a burger. And this might sound crazy, but try a dry stout with steak or even oysters. Those deep, roasty, chocolatey notes perfectly complement those savory, umami flavors. It's incredible.
Okay, let's boil this all down. A final lightning round guide. You love coffee or dark chocolate? Ask for a stout or a porter. You just want something super crisp and refreshing? A pilsner's your best bet. You love those hoppy aromas but not the bitterness? Go for a hazy IPA. And if you want to try a dark beer that's surprisingly light, ask for a Schwarzbier. It's literally just a black lager.
So, next time you see that giant menu, don't be intimidated. It isn't complicated because it's trying to be snobby. It's complicated because it's delicious in 1,000 different ways. That variety isn't a bug. It's the best feature. So now you've got the map. Go explore. Cheers.